Congress is staring down a Friday deadline to codify $9.4 billion in spending cuts requested by President Trump. The legislation includes rescissions targeting woke pet projects ranging from public broadcasting to international aid programs. However, today, following a meeting this afternoon with Senate Republicans, OMB Director Russ Vought announced that the White House would accept a substitute amendment removing the proposed 5.6% cut to PEPFAR, the president's emergency plan for AIDS relief. Why the concessions? Some senators seem more concerned about ensuring that taxpayer dollars continue to flow to fringe programs, including overseas grants that have funded projects like male sex workers learning to bake pastries. Is that where you want your tax dollars going? Well, here to give us an update on how the rescissions bill is progressing is Kansas Senator Roger Marshall, who serves on multiple committees, including the Senate Budget Committee. Dr. Marshall, welcome back to Washington Watch. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tony, great to be with you.
Now, I know you've been out there really championing these cuts, saying we don't need these things. We need to cut the waste, fraud, and abuse. But some of your colleagues disagree.
Yeah, we got some weak knees up here, Tony. The big picture to me is that we're $37 trillion in debt, and we have an opportunity to start whacking away at some of that debt. President Trump gave us a $9.4 billion cut. I'm horribly disappointed to see that we're only going to cut $9 billion. $400 million of this was in the HIV/AIDS program in Africa. But to your point, there was mission creep. What they were doing with that money suddenly was funding abortions. They were funding transgender surgeries. They were funding LGBTQ type of programs as well. I wanted that all cut, but some of my colleagues that lean towards the middle got that placed back in. And I want to have all the compassion in the world for people with AIDS. I want to do everything we can to help those folks. But again, we're already giving them $7 billion a year, and we wanted to cut out some of this waste, fraud, abuse, as we just described.
Yeah, and I want to put a fine point on this for our viewers and listeners, because this is something, it's been around for almost 25 years. This goes back to 2003, and this is one of the benefits of being around for a while. I remember when this was created, and it started with a $1.5 billion annual allocation. The last allocation was $7.1 billion. I mean, that's over a 330% increase in the annual allocation being given to this program. 5.6% is all President Trump was asking to be cut from this, and it's not in the direct aid of the drugs and the essential resources needed to treat AIDS. This is, as you pointed out, frivolous, wasteful programs.
Yeah, Tony, we've done medical mission work overseas, in Africa in particular, and worked with Rotary to develop water and sewage disposal. We lose a million people every year in Africa to some type of waterborne illness. Think about cholera. About 350,000 children die every year in Africa from cholera or something to do with dirty water or poor waste systems. Look, I have compassion for the people with AIDS. We know what causes that. But the poor kids that are dying because they don't have clean water, that just would be a better use of this money. Yeah, right. So I just think that sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees.
Let me be very clear for our listeners and viewers that Senator Roger Marshall is on the right side of this. So we're having this conversation about this. You have been up there championing these cuts because you're a medical doctor. There's no one more pro-life in the Senate than you are. You've delivered over 5,000 babies. So I just want to put that out there for the benefit of our listeners. But here's my sense on this, Senator, is that it really is not the substance. It's the fear that Democrats are going to take this and run with it against some Republicans saying they cut AIDS funding. And it doesn't matter that it's being used for something totally opposite. That's not the point. The point is they're afraid that it'll be used against them politically.
Yeah, Tony, you nailed it. And it's called courage. It's called doing the right thing. And again, I just want to do the right thing. The left is going to lie about us no matter what, but our heart's in the right place. We want to show compassion. We want to help the least amongst these. But we also want to be frugal, for lack of a better word, with taxpayer monies. And again, the left is going to twist it. They've lost their mind up here, as they've said. But we know what the truth is. And your listeners know the truth. America is much smarter than what the national media gives them credit for.
The Senator used a word that I don't think has ever been heard on Capitol Hill, frugal. I can't. $37 trillion in debt. Frugal is not something that the Capitol Hill knows much about. All right, let's go on. Let's move on. Will the Senate meet the deadline and get this back over to the House?
We will, but now we're going to change the bill enough that the House is going to have to vote again on Friday. I think Friday's the 18th. I got to get my date straight here.
You're correct.
But I think that's the day that it all has to be done to the president, or we lose this opportunity. And emphasize that we can do this with 50 votes. Very few things can you do on the Senate with 50 votes. We did our big, beautiful bill, the largest tax cut in American history, funded the border. This is something else we can do. We need to do $190 billion of these to work towards a balanced budget.
Now, let me ask you, because there are other members of the Republican conference in the Senate were concerned about the cuts to broadcasting, to the remote rural stations that were getting money from national broadcasting. Is that what's going to happen with that?
Well, I think that we're going to go through with the cut for that, as far as I can tell. But I just want to emphasize that, look, in Kansas, it's not a matter of if, but when a tornado is going to be close to your property. I think we've been hit twice by tornadoes in my lifetime alone. So we have emergency warning systems that come on in the middle of the night, much like a fire alarm. I don't know anyone who listens to public broadcasting when it's time for when there's local weather type of issues. That would be the main concern in rural Kansas, would be weather as well. So I think we need to go through with that. Kansans don't want their taxpayer money being spent towards public broadcasting, which is just another extension of the left Democrat Party.
It is. You're absolutely right, Senator, absolutely right. We've got about 3 minutes left, Senator. I want to switch gears. As I mentioned, you're a medical doctor. You're pro-life. You've delivered over 5,000 babies. In the, when the Supreme Court issued the Dobbs decision overturning Roe, blue state officials and abortion providers have relentlessly sought to undermine pro-life state laws. I mean, many states have adopted strong pro-life laws. I think in total, 41 have some degree of pro-life laws, 13 really strong pro-life laws. The Biden administration put in place the mifepristone, the abortion drug protocol that allows, and the Comstock Act, refusing to enforce that, essentially allowing abortion drugs to be mailed across state lines without any kind of medical consultation. That remains in place, and we've actually seen abortion numbers rise in the country since the overturn of Roe. What can the Trump administration do to fix this?
Yeah, Tony, well, several things. What I've advocated for is, in my medical opinion, it's not safe to prescribe this pill through telemedicine. This type of pill which kills the baby and then forces the uterus to push it out, kind of like a Pitocin drip, only stronger than that. It doesn't work as well at 12 weeks or 14 weeks as it does at 8 weeks. And consequently, you're asking a woman, well, how far along are you? And she's going to guess. Based upon those 5,000 babies, on average, women are a month off. So I think that we can raise the standard that telemedicine doesn't work, that we need to put our hands on a patient. And really, I think you need an ultrasound. The ultrasound is what would determine how far along they are. These are Category X drugs. That means that if the abortion pill doesn't work, that baby's at a high risk for a fetal anomaly. So I think that they're practicing below the standard of care. I was talking with this at lunch today with other senators. It's just suddenly, if you mention the word abortion pill, you're allowed to practice below what I would call the standard of care. Let me make one point, Tony, is the big reason they don't want us to do ultrasounds on these moms, pregnant women, is because half of women, when they see that baby's heartbeat, they won't follow through with an abortion. Because suddenly the woman says, oh my gosh, they've been lying to me. I've got a live baby inside of me, and they want me to kill this baby. So I think the standard of care is an ultrasound, and I'm hoping that Dr. McCary looks at this and says, well, maybe that would be the right thing to do. He's the FDA administrator and a godly man, and I think they'll be looking at raising that standard on how they would prescribe this pill. I wish we could outlaw it, but we can't go there.
Well, we certainly can reinforce the protocols that were in place prior to the Biden administration. So I think you're absolutely right. It can be changed in a heartbeat. Senator Roger Marshall, always great to see you. Thanks so much for taking time to join us today.